Good day to you. So I'm going to get right into this video. We want to accomplish two things. One is to create a document template for academic use, and number two is to set up APA referencing using the application Zotero. Zotero is completely free, and I'm just going to jump right into showing you how to do that. So let's get Zotero first, and for that you just need a web browser. You can either type in zotero.org or you can search for Zotero. In here, very first thing you're going to see is a big download button. Go ahead and click that. We want to download for Windows 64-bit. It happens pretty quickly. I'm going to go ahead and install that. Within a few seconds, we've got Zotero on our desktop. Just use all the default nexts. Launch Zotero now. So there are two parts to Zotero, and that is the back end application. This thing you're seeing in the back. This is where you'll store all of your references for everything you do. So it will just accumulate everything over time, and you can just leave them there. The other thing is a plugin. So we need a plugin for the browser, and we need a plugin for the Microsoft Word. So Zotero is installed. Now we want to get the plugin. If you scroll down, in this case my default is Firefox. I'm going to install the plugin for Firefox, but I'm going to also show you how to do that for Microsoft Edge. So it says Zotero was added, and we want to pin it to the bar so that we see it up top. All right. So what we can do is just copy this URL to another browser, and we're going to go to here for Microsoft Edge, and that's zotero.org/start. And again, we want to install the Edge browser. Go ahead and get in the top right corner, add extension. Extension is now there, and we don't want to sync anything yet. Now we want to add it to the taskbar up here in Microsoft Edge. So you want to click on this gear icon here, and you'll see a pin button right there. So we want to pin it, and once we do, we see it showing up as a page icon. So from this point on, Zotero's pretty much installed. Now for Microsoft Word, I've got Word running. We want to make a blank document in Microsoft Word, and you should see Zotero up here in the top menu. If you don't, it should have been installed. Just close down Word and reopen Word, another blank document, and you'll see now that we have Zotero in here. So we're all ready to go. Now, actually, we're not quite ready to go. Zotero needs to be synced to an email account. Now, again, this is free, but you still need to set up an email account. So we're going to go to Edit and Settings, and you'll see some menus on the left-hand side. Most importantly is the sync button. Here, you want to give it any username and any password. So I've already created one. I called it IT Instructor 1. And if you have not done that, you need to create an account. So this account is now linked. But just if you don't have an account, you can do it through the app. The app's going to take you back to Zotero, and you can log in here, and you can create an account here. So it uses it asks for your email. Please use your academic email or from wherever you're watching this from. But you can also set up just an account name. So you can see here, this is very important that you have this working before you proceed with your template. Okay, so we are good to go now. So coming into Word, we want a blank template that we can use over and over and over again. And we want it to be very simple, easy to use, and you can change it for whatever purpose you need it for. So let's start with the basics here. Well, what do we need? We need a title page. I'm going to hit enter to give some space. We need a table of contents. Then we need a body of the paper. Then we need possibly an addendum. This is optional, so you should check to see if you really need to have that. And then finally the reference page, or just call it references. So that's sort of the main sections that we want. Now, I'm going to go to each one of these, title page, table contents, and I want to make them into a heading. But I don't want to do that for title page, because it just needs to be, it doesn't need to be in the table of contents. So title page can just stay with no heading. Table contents is auto generated. I'm going to show you how to do that. The body we do want is heading 1, and addendum we want as heading 1, and references we want as heading 1. Now, the body really isn't called body, but it's literally where all the information of the paper is. So we're going to break down the body now into different sections. Typically, you have an introduction to the paper. Then you might have a part 1, a part 2, part 3, and a conclusion. For each one of these, you want to hit heading 1, heading 1, heading 1, and heading 1. Now you notice between the headings, this blank line, this one must be normal. So you don't want all the blanks to be heading 1. That's going to cause some problems. So we have a good start here to an academic paper. And before we start expanding this out, first thing we should do is create page numbers. This can be done easily by just going up to the top of the page and double clicking. And you'll see that it turns into editing the header of the document. You can see that little indicator on the left hand side and a line going across. Now we want a page number on the right hand side of the paper. It always must be on the top right hand side. This is the most common, this is the most sensible place to put a page number. Do not put page numbers on the footer, and do not put page numbers on the left hand side, because they can be confused with headings and so on. Okay, so you can see now on the bar up here, there's a page number button. Just click on that, and it says, where do you want it? We want it at the top of the page, and we want it on the right hand side. So we could choose just a plain number, but I like to do this one. The bold number is 3, and now it'll tell us how many pages are there in total and what page are we on. Perfect. So to get out of that, you can just double click on the paper, and it will automatically page number everything from now on. So now we want to insert a page break for every single one of these. So we don't want them we don't want any content on the same page. We want them all to be separated. So for the table of contents, we're going to go page break, go to the introduction, page break, part 1, page break, part 2, page break, part 3, page break, conclusion, page break, addendum, page break, and finally references, page break. Okay. So right now we have a 9-page template, but we still need to do a few more things. And that is to go to our table of contents and generate it. So I don't want you ever to type in table of contents here, like introduction, page 1. Never do that. You're just making more work and potentially making mistakes. So what we're going to do for the table of contents page is we're going to delete the text, and we're going to automatically generate it by going to the references tab up top, and on the very first button on the left you're going to see table of contents. Click on that, and I just choose the first one. It's just different styles, and I'm going to click on that, and you can see table of contents is nicely made. Now as you add more pages and more sections and so on, you can come back here and you can just click on the table of contents and say update table. You can just do page numbers if you've not added sections, or you can say update entire table. And this is just wonderful. It's easy to do, and it makes sure everything is properly done. Let's go back up to the title page for a moment. What should be in the title page? Well, obviously not the word title page, but you want it to be sort of descriptive. So what is this paper about? We can say assignment 1, and then your name or full name. Then probably the course name, possibly the instructor name, but that's kind of up to the instructor. You might want to ask if the instructor name should be there or not. And finally, you could put a date in. Sometimes that's required, sometimes it's not. So I'm just going to put in date. So this is sort of like the minimum you would see in a title page. Now you can just leave it like that. Title pages don't need to be fancy with graphics and so on. But if you want to, you can take this and center the text, and you'd have a nice little title page. Now you could center it in the page as well, but to be honest, you don't need to get fancy. It doesn't need to be nice and pretty. It just needs to be functional. Okay, so we have a title page, we have a table of contents, we have the body of the paper, we have parts numbers of the body, and we have a conclusion. And an addendum is something you use if it's sort of an external kind of source of information, that you're not being graded on this stuff, but the addendum might just be additional background information that doesn't belong in the paper itself. Let me just go back up to just describe what should be in these. So the introduction of the paper should be quite brief, usually 1 paragraph, maybe 2 paragraphs. It should not include details that are expected in the paper itself. So it's if you met somebody and you say, hey, I wrote a paper about this, how would you describe that paper to that person? It's just a description of the paper, nothing more. Typically there's no citations. It's just a very good description, so whoever is going to read this paper understands what's in it. Now, when it comes to the conclusion, that's kind of different. It can be a summary of what is in the document, but typically it's better to tell the reader what you learned from this experience. What was your personal conclusion, and what did you get out of this that helped you understand the topic? So essentially that's what a conclusion should be. And again, it should not include new content. There should be no new content in the introduction and no new content in the conclusion. This should all the content of the paper should be between those two, within part 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, so on. So like that. Now we have a nicely set up template. What we want to do is now save this template. So we go to File, Save As, and I recommend you save it into your My Documents folder for now. And you don't want to call it Assignment 1. You want to make sure that you've named it a template. So we could call it an assignment template. And typically you would put your name or initials in there because you're going to be submitting this to the school. So I'm just going to say assignment template, my initials, hit OK, and we're done. So if I start working on this paper and I start adding in information to the introduction and part, and I start adding in content, do not go File, Save, because you're just going to overwrite your template. So here you want to go File, Save As, and go back to Documents, and we're going to call it, instead of template here, we'll call it Assignment 1. Great, so we have Assignment 1 up here. Our assignment template is nice and clean. So if we mess anything up here, that's fine. We can always go back to our template. So let's get on to understanding how to use referencing, citations and references. So what's the difference between a citation and a reference? Well, a citation is inside the document, such as the author and the year of the original document. References is at the very bottom and contains more detailed information about those citations. You cannot have a citation without a reference, and you cannot have a reference without a citation. That's very important. Now, you can have one single reference at the reference page for multiple citations, however. So I hope that's clear. Never have a citation without a reference. Never have a reference without a citation. Super important. All right, so why do we need citations? Well, we need citations whenever we're copying and pasting information, or if any of the facts we got are not ours. We're not making stuff up. You need to make sure that when the instructor looks at your paper, are you making this up? Are you guessing? Or did you get this information from somewhere else? Very important, because you can't be guessing. So let's go into a web browser and let's look at a topic here. So let's say we want to search for e-bikes. And I'm just going to go best e-bikes. Well, let's go to someplace like e-bike Canada. And we're just going to be talking about e-bikes. Hopefully there's some good information here other than just reviews. What can we take out of this? I'm just going to pick one. So let's say you're going to write about this bike. I'm just picking something completely at random. And you want to talk about Vanguard, Van Power's Urban Glide bike. So let's take that and we're going to copy that to Word, and we're just going to paste it. When you copy and paste from a web page, do not use this source formatting. Always use keep text only. See that when I'm that third button over? So keep text only. So we're going to say, okay, we're going to talk about that. And on the website, it has some key features. So we can copy and we can paste those directly into our Word document. And we're going to go keep text only again. And it popped it down to the page below. We don't want that, so we're going to go back up here. And we're going to hit the delete button just to bring that back up. That's fine, because if that ever happens, we can always bump part 2 down to another page. So here we have our copy and paste. Now, if you submitted this like this, submitted your paper like this, that would be plagiarism, because you're not typing this in. This is not your words. So you must put quotation marks around any content that is not your own. So that's the beginning of it. This content is word for word from another website. Okay, we need to tell the paper, where did we get that information from now? So let's go back to our web page, and we need to capture this web page in Zotero. So we're going to go up here, and now the first time you click Zotero, it says yes, you've got a connector, but once it's ready, you should see it look like a page of some sort. So I'm going to click this Save to Zotero button, and it should say on your machine, saving to my library. Hopefully you see that. So before I put it into my document, let me just show you what it looks like in the app. So if we go over here, we should see that Van Power's Urban Glide Standard, it's in there. It's got title, it's showing a blog post, it's showing when I captured it, and so on. So it's there. Now, it has to be there before we can put a citation there, which is fine. So we're going to go to the Zotero tab now, and we want to add a citation. Now, the very first time you do this in every document, you just have to do this once. You want to tell it to use APA, or American Psychological Association APA 7th edition, and click OK. The next part it's going to say is, okay, what's the citation? Now, it will guess sometimes for you, but if you've got lots of them, you'll have to sort of type it in. So in this case, it's popped it up right away, Van Powers, but I could have typed in Van Power up here, and it would bring that up. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. So let's do that again. Citation, Van Power, and now we have it in the Zotero bar. So if you make a mistake, you can always backspace, you can get rid of that, and you can pick the right one. But if you think that's good, just hit the Enter key. And there we go. We have a citation. Now, for web links, this doesn't look very nice, but for textbooks and so on, the citation is usually quite small. It's usually just the author and a date. In this case, it's a web page and an ND. ND just means no date. There's no date of authorship for this particular website. Okay, now the last thing is just punctuation here. So you never want to put a period after the quotation. You always want to put a period after the citation. So the reader knows that this citation belongs with the stuff above it. Okay, this is super important to have the period after. All right, so we have one valid citation in place now. So what's the other kind? This is a copy and paste above, but let's say you read something, you understood a document, and you start putting it in your own words. So if I go over here and I product overview, and it's crafted for riders seeking a reliable and stylish e-bike daily commutes. So if I just go, well, I believe, I don't want my text. I don't want my text to be in heading mode. I want them to be in normal mode. So I believe the e-bike is great for daily commutes. All right. Perhaps this sentence that you type in contains an important fact. If that's the case, you still need to cite it, but you don't need the quotation marks around it, because you're writing in your own words, but you're getting the information from the same website. So we're still going to add a citation here, and we're going to do it exactly the same way. You're going to go to Zotero, add citation, click Van Powers, hit enter, and we have our second valid citation. So those are the two main types. Now, let's say we have a ebook. Okay, assuming that I've downloaded an ebook that I'm going to use in my paper, here's the what the ebook would look like. This one is about, oops, didn't mean to minimize it. This one is just about City of Calgary housing strategy, and maybe it includes something about biking. Now, I want to copy and paste directly from this ebook, but I don't want to be cited for plagiarism, so I'm going to copy and paste the first paragraph here. Copy, and I'll paste that directly into my document here. Maybe that's in part 2. So let's go to part 2 and say paste. Don't forget to put the quotation marks around it. And you'll notice that this isn't quite formatted right. So sometimes you'll have to just massage the wording a little bit. At this ebook, put end of lines or carriage returns at the end of each line. So if I go to the end of this line and do a space and a delete, it gets rid of the formatting that's there. Okay, done. Now we need a citation after this, but we didn't capture this from our web page. So how do we capture this ebook? Well, the best thing to do is to drag and drop it right into the Zotero app. So if we have the ebook here, make sure your ebook and your Zotero are both on the same page. I'm just going to drag this right up to Zotero. And Zotero accepts the ebook, but typically ebooks aren't formatted for academic papers. They're not formatted to be cited. Sometimes they are, so sometimes you can use it as is, but I'm going to show you that most of the time you're going to have to go and create a parent. So if you right click this ebook, we want to create a parent item. And the parent item, if it was a book, you can type in the ISBN number here, but in this case it's not. I'm just going to click on manual entry. And now you can see a little arrow beside the ebook. If you expand it, there's the ebook itself, and there is a summary of the ebook contents. Now, if you know any more information about this, you can put this in, such as the date. Let's say 2025. If you know the author of the ebook, you can type that in. If you know any other details, you can type that in. So this is sort of a manual entry for the PDF. Partly automated, partly manual, but we're ready to use it now. So we can go back into our document, and now we can cite the PDF. So we're going to click on Add Citation, and it automatically guesses that this is the one we want. Of course, you can type it in. You can type in home, and it'll search for it. But we're going to click in the automatic one and hit Enter. Now we have a citation, and remember to put the period after the citation. Some countries call it an end stop or something of that sort. In Canada, we call this a period. Okay. Fantastic. So the last citation we should talk about is when you need to cite yourself. If you've had a document you've created before, maybe a previous academic document, any work that you've done previously, you should be citing your own work. Just to let the instructor know that you've done this particular, you said this particular sentence or word or paragraph or whatever it is in the past, and you need to cite yourself. Well, there's a very quick and easy way to do that. We're going to go into Zotero app again, and we want to create our own personal citation here. So we want to cite ourselves. It's quite easy to do that. We're going to click on this first pull down button. Here we can create a whole bunch of different kinds of articles and so on. So we want to say this is a document that we want to reference. What is the document title? Personal work of myself, Ken McKinnon, and I'm going to put my author because I'm citing myself. So I'm going to put my last name in, my first name in, and when that paper was published. So maybe I'm doing it from last year, maybe 2024, or it might be this year, 2025. So it doesn't really matter for this demonstration, but you do want to make sure that that's the time, not the time in which you made that citation, but the time in which you made that last document they're citing. And that's really all you need for now. Optionally, you could add more, but essentially you can cite yourself now. So here I'm going to type in my past work indicated that whatever was correct. Now, I'm just putting in garbage for now. Doesn't really matter. What matters is what do we do now? So we go back up to citation, and it automatically guesses that this is my personal work. I click OK, and I hit enter, and we're good. So now you can see the three different kinds of citation. This is a personal, and you can use the same method for books. This is from an ebook. These are from websites. This is paraphrased from a website, and this is copied and pasted directly from a website. And part 2 here, I'm just going to add in a page break so that part 2 is separate from part 1. Part 3 and conclusion. I've already mentioned what should be that. Again, should be what you learned, what you took from this, and what was the experience that you had. Addendum, we're just going to skip that. Now, finally, references. Here, you want to never type in anything manually. Never, never, never. Always use the automatic section, automatic way of doing this. And also make sure it's on normal. So you want to go references and add a space and make sure it's not on heading but on the normal, and you have a blank line. Now you're ready to add in the reference page. To do that, Zotero will label it as Bibliography. So we want to add a bibliography. And there we go. It automatically creates it. This should not be something you type in. This should be automatically generated. So as you can see, everything looks nice. We have a reference page. We have page numbers. We have addendum, a conclusion. Everything's nicely arranged. So if we go up, the final thing, once we're done our paper, we should update our table of contents to make sure all the page numbers are correct. So I'm going to go up, update table, update the entire table, and we're done. So we are done assignment 1. Now we can save our assignment 1 file. And that concludes this tutorial. Thanks for watching.